Good afternoon. Y'all, I've got something really fun today. So, a couple of months ago, or several weeks ago, I'm not sure when it was, I asked you all about the freestanding ghost. And if I had an easier way, would you be interested? Lots of you said, yes, you absolutely would be interested. And so, I've got that easier way for you today. We have designed a form for you to use. And this is very easy. I'm going to show you how it works today. You just purchase this on our website, and it makes it very easy for you to put one of these together, one that's going to stand on its own and be nice and stable and also be really cute, something you can replicate very easily. So this form, this ghost form, I'm going to post the link right here for y'all. This looks a little bit odd at first, but I'm going to show you all how to put this together. Okay, so this is a form essentially that makes it very easy for you to make one of these freestanding ghosts. We're going to make one today. We're going to do a primitive style. Okay, so it comes with the shoes and then it comes with the other pieces to make this easy for you. Okay, so the things that you'll need to provide for this are a dowel rods, some foam, and then whatever kind of fabric or material or embellishments you want to use, and then sand, which is optional. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to put all this together today. It comes with all the pieces you need to make it freestanding, okay, and stable. Okay, so it comes with your little shoes. I'll show you what all the piece comes with, okay? So it comes with these little shoes. All right, so this is what they look like. Adorable little shoes here. Okay, and you can see that there's a hole in the top. That's for your dowel rod. And you'll see also that they are hollow on the bottom. Okay. Then it also comes with these little soles, okay, that have the little pegs in there. So these go together, okay, and this is where this is optional. You can fill this with sand, or you can leave it empty, or you could fill it with something else that you have. We're going to fill it with sand today, and it's going to add a little extra weight to these so that they're a little bit more weighted to help hold the goats and make sure that it's not wobbly. You know what I mean? So it comes with that. Then it comes with your base. So this is the top, and you'll put a piece of styrofoam ball on top of this. Okay. And this just keeps everything nice and straight. And then also comes with these connectors right here. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to put all this together right now. So you'll need to provide a 3/8 inch dowel rod. Okay. 3/8 of an inch is the size that these holes fit, and you'll need to cut your dowels. Now, you can make this go different heights and things. I cut my dowels to 16 or 15 inches. Okay. I cut my dowels to 15 inches. Hey, all right. So I'm just going to get some black paint, and we're going to paint the soles as well as the feet, the top of the shoe. But we do not need to paint the undersides because those aren't really going to be seen. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's just get these painted first. Black covers beautifully. Okay, so there's that. Now let's do this one. So I'm just trying to get all of the white. I don't want to see any of that white showing. So I'm just using my paintbrush to get underneath the laces and things. And I may only need to do one coat because I want these to be kind of distressed looking anyways. So we're going with sort of a primitive look here, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so then for the soles, I'm just going to do a little bit on the top because you might see just a little bit, and then the bottom. But the rest of it is not going to be seen. All that's going to be covered. All right, so there's that one. Let's get this one now. There we go. Okay. All right, let me dry these. And of course, I didn't paint down into the holes or anything like that. You want to be careful with your heat tool not to get these too hot because you don't want them to warp. I think I'm going to go on and fill them actually, and then we'll distress them after we get them filled. Okay. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So they are painted. Okay. And of course, like I said, the inside is hollow. Okay. So I'm going to grab a little bit of masking tape here, and there's 2 holes right here. I'm just going to grab some masking tape, and I'm just going to cover those holes up so that I don't get any sand inside those holes. So just a little piece just to go right over top of those little holes. Okay, just like that. All right, now I've got some sand here. This is just Dollar Tree sand. Anything would work. You're just wanting to add some weight. And I'm just going to fill these up. Just going to kind of move it around so that it just kind of fills in. And you can fill it as much as you want. The main thing is you want to make sure you don't have sand on the edges, because that's where we're going to be gluing this together. And we'll do the other one. So I'm just kind of shaking it to get the sand down here. All right. I think that's good enough. So just make sure there is no sand on those edges. Okay. So then after we get the sand in, we can just remove our tape. Again, we just want to make sure that we don't put any sand in those holes, because then it's going to be hard to get our soles onto our shoes. Now the soles there is a left and a right, so you do want to pay attention to that. I'm going to grab some super glue, and we're going to put some super glue all around the edge, as well as on this flat piece and around these little holes. Okay. So I'm just going to take my super glue. I don't want to do like a ton, but I want to do it all around the edge because I want to make sure it's sealing up so that sand doesn't come out. Okay, and around those holes, this is just going to help to hold everything together. And we'll do the same thing here on the other one. Okay, just like that. Now, you may need a hammer for this, all depending. So now I'm just going to make sure I take the matching sole, and we're just going to line it up. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tap this closed. Y'all, I did a horrible job just demonstrating how that's supposed to go. Okay. So here's your little shoe. All right, let's do this one. Let's see if I can do this one a little bit better than I did the other one. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here and tap it, make sure it's all the way closed. All right. And it is. Okay. So here's our other little shoe. All right. So we got our 2 little shoes, and they have some weight to them. Okay. Just going to touch up this right here where I hammered. Okay. All right. So now we got our little shoes. Let's just distress them a little bit. I'm going to grab some raw umber and some milk chocolate. We're just going to add a little bit of distressing with our pouncer onto our shoes. Just make them look kind of old. Okay, so I'm starting with my milk chocolate, and I'm just going to kind of add some of this wherever. I'm going to go around the bottom of the shoe. It's going to kind of look like they're dirty a little bit. Just want to make them look a little older. Okay, so here's the difference. Brings out some of the details. All right, and then we can do the same thing with the raw umber, just adding a little bit more. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of the raw umber and just do the same thing with the raw umber, just adding a bit of color here and there just to make these look a little older. All right, and that's it. Shoes are done. Really simple. Okay, so now let me show you. We're going to make some pants really quick for this. And I think I'm going to use this material right here for my pants. For the pants, we're just going to use some hot glue, and we're just going to make a tube, essentially, for the pants, okay? Now, I'm not 100% sure the length on this. We'll put it together, and I'll tell you all what the length needs to be. So this fabric right here is a little over 4 inches wide, okay? So I'm going to fold this over like this. Add some hot glue right here on this edge. And then I'm just going to fold the fabric right over top of that. I'm just going to keep on going because I'm not sure for sure how long this needs to be just yet. I feel like that's probably going to be enough, but I'm going to go a little bit more just in case. Okay. All right. There we go. Now, I might want to also do a little ruffle on the end of this. So I think I'm going to take some black fabric and I'm just going to tear a piece. Okay. And I think should have done this before I glued this together. So we're just going to pull this apart a little bit and redo it. So I'm just going to take my fabric here and we'll just put it along the bottom and just kind of gather it up. So I'm just going to add some glue here, put my fabric down, and then I'm just going to pinch it so that we create this sort of ruffled look. So keeping the gingham fabric straight, but pinching the black fabric to create that ruffle. Okay, and last little bit here. Okay, and then I'll just cut off the excess and we'll glue this back together. And we've just got this cute little ruffled bottom, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite end here. So I'm just doing it on the inside. I'm letting the raw edge of the fabric show. Okay, we need a little bit more fabric. Okay, last bit here. All right, just going to cut off the excess and then we'll just glue all this back together. Okay, there we go. So we got our little pants made. Okay, all right. So now it's time to start putting this together. So as I said, I'm using 3/8-inch dowel rods. Okay. And I've cut my dowels to 15 inches long. All right. So what we're going to do first is actually, I'm not going to glue it together. Okay. So I'm going to stick my dowels, my 3/8-inch dowels into my shoes. Okay. All right. Then you've got these little pieces right here. And these are, you can do arms if you want to, and you'll use these to do arms. Otherwise, these are just to make it stable and help its connection. Now, you do want to make sure that you've got these going the right way. So the shorter ends will be on the inside, and you're just going to look at it to see if they're going the right angle. So, of course, you want the top to be smaller than the bottom. So you can see how when I put these together, you've got them going like this. Okay, if I flip it like that, you can see they're going together. Okay, we don't want that. If I flip it like this, you can see that they're upside down. Okay, so we want it to be like this. And of course, the shorter end goes on the inside. And you can put these as close together as you want them and wherever you want your arms to be. I don't know if I'm going to do arms on this or not, but I will show you how you do that. Now, you can glue them together if you feel like you need to. You may not need to. You can then take another dowel rod, just a shorter piece, and put in the middle here so that you can connect the two. Now, I'm going to shorten this a little bit more to make it a little bit shorter. And connecting the two is just going to make it a little bit more stable as well. So you can just put your dowel rod into one side and then into the other side like that. Okay. Then this top piece will go on, and it goes on like this. Okay. So this is what you've got. All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is measure my pants, figure out where my pants need to be. So about right there, we're going to be putting them right here at the bottom of these pieces. Okay, so I'm going to cut those. All right, and then I'm going to grab a zip tie, 2 zip ties. So like I said, I didn't go on and glue this together. That way that I can kind of assemble it, see how things are looking. So this pant is going to go up the dowel rod like this. And then I'm going to put the shoe back on so that I can adjust the length of the pant. This one was very tight. There we go. Okay, so we've got our little pants on. I'm just going to take show y'all. So y'all can kind of see what this is looking like. All right. So I'm going to take my little zip tie and I'm just going to zip tie the pants right up here onto the little connectors. Just want to make sure the pants are all coming out the top here. And then we can do the other side. All right. So our pants are on. I'll cut off the excess. Now from here, if you wanted to do arms, you can do arms and you'll just cut more dowel and put your dowels in here. So if you wanted to do arms, then you would just cut whatever size dowel you want and then your arms would just go right into these ends here. Okay, right on the edges, these little connectors here. You just put some arms right in there. Okay. So then you can just take a styrofoam ball, cut it in half. The top here is 4 inches. Okay, now you can adjust this based upon the length of your dowels and the size of the styrofoam ball that you put on the top. Okay, so if you wanted an even bigger styrofoam ball, you can do that and make your dowels even longer. Okay, so you just have to play with that. So this dowel or this styrofoam ball is about 5 inches that I'm using to put on the top here. And I'm just going to use some hot glue and we're just going to glue this right on the top. So you've just got this nice flat surface and your dowel rod and your styrofoam ball. And we'll just glue that right to the top. Okay. All right. So here's what it's looking like so far. Okay. So now we're going to grab a piece of white fabric, cream fabric, whatever you want to use for your ghost, the cover part. Okay. And I'm using this old blanket that I've got. And we're just going to cut out a square. You can cut out a circle, but a square is definitely easier. And I am just thinking this is probably about the right size. So cut it out since I've got to cut this instead of tearing it. I'm going to just use a yardstick to make a straight-ish line, somewhat straight. And then I'm going to cut it. All right, so we'll start here. Now I want this to be frayed, so I'm not going to cut it with pinking shears because I am going to fray the bottom. So we're getting one straight edge here, and I'll tell you the size of this square when I get it cut so that you know. So again, we cut our dowels 15 inches. All right, I'm going to cut this fringe off because, or at least cut it short. Actually, no, I am going to cut it because I want it to fray on its own. So I'm going to cut the whole thing off. And you could use muslin for this. You could use cotton. You could use an old sheet. Any kind of fabric that you've got laying around, you could use. Okay, I'm going to now take this one here, this side, and straighten it up a bit. All right, so just want to make somewhat of a straight line. It doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think. Okay, all right. Cut that. Okay, so this is about 23 inches. So let's cut this way about 23 inches. Y'all, my space is not quite big enough. All right, so 23 inches, about right here. And 23 inches this way. It's about right here. So then we'll make a line this way, like this. Okay, all right. Okay, so I've got a 23 inch by 23 inch-ish square. Let's see if this is going to be right. So we made our dowels 15 inches tall. 15 plus 15 is 30. So, and I want some of my pants to show. So let's see here how this is going to look. If we need to make it smaller or if we're happy with this size. Turn it a little bit. Okay, I think that's going to work. So now I'm going to fray these edges a bit. I definitely want a bit of a frayed edge. So I'm going on all the sides here, pulling off some of the excess, or some of the threads rather. I think that'll do. All right. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it in quarters like this so that I can find where the middle is. And then I've just got my middle here. And I'm just going to do like that. Then position it wherever you want it. I'm going to take a pin. This is just to help me. And just put a pin right in the top there to hold that. Then I'm going to flip this. That's just so that the fabric is staying in the same spot. And I'm just going to take some hot glue here. And we're going to glue this to the top of our styrofoam ball. And I should have replaced my tip. I'm using a precision tip right now, and that's not the right tip for this. So I'm just covering the ball. I want to make sure that this is laying sort of flat on the ball if I can get it that way. So then I'm just going to flip this back and we'll do this other side. I want to add a little glue right here and a little bit of glue right over here. So just like that. Now I can take my pin out. So that was, again, just to help hold things on. All right. So here's how it's looking. Look how easily it stands on its own. Okay, so let's embellish it. All right, we need some eyes. I'm going to use this black fabric for my eyes. Okay, so I'm just going to take the fabric. I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to fold it in half again the other way. And I'm just going to cut this out so that I've got a little square here. Okay. And then on the fold where I folded it in half, I'm going to just cut a half oval. And this just is giving me symmetrical eyes like this. Okay, these are too big. I think they're too big. So I'm going to fold in half and cut smaller. All right, let's try that. Okay, that looks about right. So we're just going to glue these on right onto the fabric. Right, I think that looks good. Okay, hang on. I'm not liking how that fabric's laying right there, though. So I'm going to glue it down a little bit more right here in the front. So that it's not puckering so much right there. All right, so just want to make sure that these are centered, and I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue them on. All right. Okay, so there's the eyes. All right, we're going to add a bow because the bow's going to make it adorable. I'm going to use this material that I have right here that I think came from Hobby Lobby. And I don't know if this material will tear or not. I'm going to try and see if it will. If not, no big deal. We'll do something different with the way I'm going to do the bow. Okay, it is tearing. All right. Okay. Now, let's see. I'm trying to decide how big do I want it. Yes, it is definitely a ghost. All right, let's see if I can just tie a bow. Let's see what that looks like, or if we need to make one another way. Okay, that's looking cute. Just gonna trim the tail. Let's see what this looks like with that kind of bow. Oh my goodness. I think that's looking really cute. Okay, I feel like it needs to go on that side though. Yes. Okay, we're going to glue that on. So I'm just going to glue the bottom here. And then we can tack down the little tails so that they don't move around too much. I think I'm going to do a little tag that says spooky on it. So let me grab some fabric. I'm just going to use some muslin and cut a little tag out. Okay, I'm thinking about just putting that down here. So let me grab some stamps. These are going to be too big. So we're going to need to go small. So we'll go with something like that. So then I just added the dowel rod, the 3/8 inch dowel, and then the fabrics and things to make it work, to make it look like a ghost. Let's grab an S and a P and an O, P, O, and then we need a K and a Y. Okay, Y, where are you, Y? There you are. Okay, so I'm just going to add one in the wrong space for the O, just to make sure my spacing is right, and then I'll add my Y. on the end after I've made sure the spacing's correct. Okay, so we're just gonna do spooky. Let me grab my black. Okay. All right, so I've got my little spooky tag. Let me see if I've got a rusty safety pin. I think that would be really cute. Here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna grab my little safety pin here, and I'm just gonna attach this little tag. Before I do that, I want to distress it a bit. Let me grab my vintage photo, and I'm just gonna distress this tag a bit. Okay. Now let's try this again. All right. Okay. I'm gonna grab a lint roller here and get the little black detail on the little legs need to be cleaned up. There's hot glue strings all over it. Okay. So, and again, if you wanted to do arms, you would put the arms up underneath here where these little connectors are. So your arms would just come out like that, and then you would have arms. You also don't always have to use arms because you can sometimes use the material itself and position it so that it's almost like it's holding. That looks good. This isn't quite right, but almost like you would just put it together like this and then have a pumpkin or whatever it is in there to hold. Okay, and so that's what you'll use to create this. And of course, it also has the shoes, which makes it very easy. It stands on its own super easily. So this takes care of that for you, makes it very easy to do. So, all right, let's put together this. I have a